designed to addict as early as possible and keep people addicted for life. That is totally different.
But my question wasn't of comparison among the two. It's about what we need to do for our health as a nation in the future. And I know you're interested in all the in every possible aspect of that. So a ban on junk food advertising was put forward by the then government food czar, Henry Dimbleby. It was rejected. Would you personally like to see it come into force?
Well, the thing which I would at first like to see is the ban on advertising at a time when children can watch TV, which is in force but not actually been, the start date has been pushed back in time. I hope that never gets pushed back again. And I think all of us would really like to see advertising of the most harmful foods, the ones that are like to cause obesity extremely quickly, curbed in some ways. But that's very different from bans, which is what I think people, what your question started off with.
So you're comfortable then with the fact that the idea or the recommendation put forward for ban on junk food advertising was shelved or rejected?
No, I mean I'm not saying that at all. To be clear, my own view is that there was a lot in the Henry Dimbleby report that needs to be looked at again. It was a very good report. But obesity is a complex problem, and we need to do multiple different things to help bring our rates of obesity down. Smoking is a straightforward problem. We should be aiming for zero smoking, and that's why this bill is in front of Parliament today.
I also want to ask you about the Cass report which came out the other day and your reflection on how puberty blockers were ever prescribed to children on the NHS in England without a proper evidence base on their long-term impact.
Well, I think that the Cass report has been, it was an extremely important report, and I think it said three things, one of which is directly related to your question. I mean, the first one, and it is the most important to start off with, is this is about children, and the welfare of children should be the central concern. All other issues should take very firmly second place to that. The second, though, as you say, is that Dr. Cass pointed out that the evidence base here was very weak. And I think it is a very clear corrective to any area of medicine, in fact, where people are running ahead of the evidence, particularly where there are potential significant side effects or long-term effects from treatment. And I think it is really an opportunity for us to rethink that completely. And of course, the final thing she said was one of the reasons why the research has been so thin in this area is because of the vitriolic nature of the debate on both extremes of it. And I think we do need to calm this debate right down. This is to help children who are often going through difficult times, and we need to start off with that rather than
These were NHS prescriptions to children. The fact that they were ever allowed, is it a failure? Did you at any stage think, I should be stepping in on this because I'm not sure what the evidence base is, and yet these drugs are being prescribed?
Well, the whole reason for having the Cass review done by a very distinguished paediatrician, previous president of the Royal College of Paediatrics. I mean, the reason for doing the review was to try and work out where the scientific evidence was the right way forward. It's an extremely thorough report, a long report, multiple recommendations, not just on this area, but multiple other ones. I think the medical profession, the government, all of us really need to take it very seriously.
Professor Sir Chris Whitty, thank you very much. Let me turn to Chris Mason, who is listening in, and you've been thinking about politics with this, and particularly the vote to come and the position of Conservatives, including the former Prime Minister.
Yeah, that's right. I have one word that I've just written in my notebook that is listening to the conversation that you were just having, and it is choice. The political potency of the word choice. You heard Sir Chris there talking about, as he saw it, the lack of choice for smokers, because you start smoking and you get addicted and you can't pack it in. Right at the heart of the conversation amongst Conservatives in particular is that same word that they particularly cherish around choice, and that sentiment of them that they don't like the idea of a government, let alone a Conservative government, advocating, as they see it, the removal of that choice. Now, as we've been reporting this morning, this is going to be a free vote, so technically it isn't a rebellion when Conservatives decide to ignore regime. You see that would be the opposite, as he is advocating. But when you've got, as I picked up my paper from the other day, two former Prime Ministers, the two previous Prime Ministers, thinking it's a terrible idea, and those invoking Winston Churchill in their arguments, you get a sense of how to the core of conservatism this gets. Boris Johnson saying the other day, when the party of Winston Churchill wants to ban cigars, donnez-moi un grape. And he's not the only one, because Liz Truss, noticed an interview or two, a book, She is Mortal, will also be talking about this. I've spoken to her before. News catch on BBC South. Listen to this exchange. Could she possibly be referring to Chris Whitton? But I put to her this idea of maybe the slogan and which she is inclined. Listen to this exchange.
What I think about this smoking ban is it's something that we can't happen by unelected individuals in pursuing sometimes. Look, I know that Jamaica had it on her desk for some years that it was in, and it seems to have re-emerged like a bad penny. My view is that we should absolutely protect children from damage and danger while they're developing decision-making capabilities. But we should be telling people not to smoke. And I worry about where it will lead. Whether we'll be getting a sugar allowance every week, or a set number of drinks we're allowed to have. It's just nonsense that she smokes all the time. And I agree, not a single person raised this issue with Bill Forster and said this is what we really think will make Conservatives in the next election is banning smoking for a certain number of adults who are fallen after a certain birthday.
Go on, I'm going to go out to smoke. How does she see that happens?
Why exactly? I don't know why this policy is being brought forward, but I think if the policy is unconservative, we are ill advised to be pursuing it.
Interesting, Chris, to hear Liz Truss advising the Conservatives on how to be popular. You originally seemed to have talked to her about lettuce. I did mention that said lettuce and she was able to do relative to the duration of her pregnancy, which she regarded that policy that I got to buy a little bit of comment at the time around the fact that we puerile and petty. What it is fair to say, though, is that Liz Truss isn't going, and she's certainly not going quite the opposite. Take a look at it. It was political firework, political bazooka every 30 seconds. We've got a very short list upon which each and every one of us should find plainly choose not to take responsibility to the policies you've been enforced. You want to live in the back of the country, you want the UK to be the European country, you want to be right, you reckon the United Nations has no purpose. First of all, Nigel Farage, the honourable president of another political party in the UK, to be a Conservative MP, and which is, of course, Donald Trump, the president of the US. Surely she could have a chance to run the country. Chris Mason, now, talking about a bunch of seasoned performance. Let's talk to Johnny Owen, the founder of Day Fever, who you've seen on the floor occasionally with his wife Vicky McClure, the star of stage and screen numbers, and dancing during the day, and also Sarah Street, Christian show with several musical license shows, dancing night, dancing during the day.
Yes, I am. I'm definitely dancing at night. I'm a DJ that getting booked at 12 o'clock at night or 4 o'clock in the morning. So yeah, I'm out and about a lot.
Just for the occasional long person for you, Dave, you start working
Sometimes, yeah. So if I DJ play Berlin or I do a late set in London, maybe at Fabric, then yeah, I might be doing a 4 a.m. set, which means I have to go to bed before the set. I'll try and have a little disco nap, and then I'll get up at like 1 a.m., have a coffee, and then try to get into the nighttime coming mode.
just before we hear the case for Dave dancing, dad dancing maybe from Johnny. Can you, do you think, capture the vibe, the feeling that you get at night during the day?
Do you know what? I mean, it's a different vibe, isn't it? I mean, daytime partying, I love it. I also respect daytime DJs there because it means that I could probably get to bed a bit earlier. But sometimes evening where people seem to like let loose a bit more at night,
kind of like the witching hour. And I feel like DJs can play heavier music at night. I feel like techno definitely works better in the evening than the daytime. It's more acceptable in the dark.
Johnny Owen then, make the case for daytime dancing.
Well, I was just listening to what Sarah said, and I totally agree. When I was a younger man, I'm 52 now, Nick, I love going out in the night. There's something really sort of sexy. When you're 18, you can go nightclubbing and go out all night. But it's not a great look for a man of my vintage, you know. Starting around 2 o'clock in the morning with a kebab, you know, you can probably get away with it at 7 o'clock in the evening. And I agree with everything Sarah said. There's a great sort of vibe going out in the night when you're young. When you get a bit older, I think like things like late in the day, you want to get home at a reasonable hour, sort of 8, 9 o'clock, carry, watch match of the day, it's not nice, but you can still go in the afternoon and have a great time and have a dance. And what I try to do is, and again, Sarah, I don't play sort of heavy dance music, you know, greatest hits of the 20th century. My mate described it as like the best wedding music without the service. But all the songs you recognise, like Come On Eileen and Blondie and Whitney Houston, being played in the afternoon. And it's been selling out everywhere. What's been great about it is the vast majority of the audience are women, 80% women, and they get along, they have the best time, they have a sing, they have a dance, and they get home at a reasonable hour. And like I said, people over the age of say 35, 40, it just seems so sort of a nicer thing to do. You get your sort of dancing done and your singing done in the daytime.
80% women, that's 80%, isn't it?
Yeah, unbelievable.
Isn't it a tease out for the pop generation, this? You come on down the bridge to me like, Johnny, I'll do it, you know.
Yeah, I just think, you know what? So my generation, we call it Generation X, I mean, I think that's the term for it, but we grew up in that world, you know, it was a little passage right for us. When the film of Saturday Fever and that disco movement came out of America in the 70s was fantastic. Like, he was a set on world, like, look at the old remake at the time, and the film was like a rock backlash for action. And in Newtown in the city, you have that great nightclub, you know, with the fake palm trees, the disco balls. It was almost like going to another world. You know, we all remember that. The music was fantastic. It was mostly charming. It was a slow scene at the end of the book, Shoots and Wales, where George Michael was playing Taylor's Whisper, the classic dance. So that's what I want to create with my mates and witnesses. It's that world of people recognizing, you know, like you say, of course, things happen. The rainbow party for events are record Canadians. So that generation is going to come out.
Look at more of a features of it. Johnny, you can take the show of being dancing during the day. Sarah, you can take it out in the morning, okay? We are quite a rule at 9 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. Come on there, right? No, that's what we're in the office rising the switch. That's how we talk. It's a heavy tempo in the background, I'm not sure. What's the day fever in Jordan? That's your appetite, Johnny Owen there. One of the founders of Excel Film Teachers, I think.
There was a thing in the 80s and 90s in Birmingham, I know, where kids, teenagers, who perhaps whose parents didn't know about would the daytime disco was definitely the place of the church, so it was the daytime. No, I'm absolutely not. I've never been to it. I have no idea what you're talking about. That's Cole Palmer scored an impressive 4 goals in a 6-0 Chelsea win over Everton in the Premier League. Chelsea are now 3 points off the European places. Everton are 2 points above the relegation zone, and the club has appealed against the second points deduction for breaching the financial rules of the Premier League, who are looking to urgently resolve the case so that it doesn't go past the end of the season. England's Maxwell Brunt and Australia's captain Pat Cummins have been named as the leading cricketers in the world by Wisdom. The Cricketers' Almanac with that shiny yellow cover that cricket fans will be checking the post for in the next few days. And it's always a pleasure to speak to the editor of Wisdom, Lawrence Booth. It comes out today, the 2024 version, as well as the names just mentioned. Stuart Broad is on the cover. What were your reasons for your choices this time?
Morning, Kathy. Yes, well, he was one of England's players of the summer. He announced his retirement famously with a couple of days of the Ashes to go. He passed 600 test wickets, only the second seamer in test history after Jimmy Anderson to do that. And then he rode off into the sunset with the last 2 Australian wickets to seal a 2-all draw. So quite an easy choice in the end.
Yes, and it was interesting in reading your editorial in Wisdom that each time it comes out, this time it includes the distribution of funds in the global game. India generates so much of cricket's wealth that there does seem to be some concern about perhaps upsetting them, but the funding model does seem to also now be having even more of a knock-on effect to other nations. What's the situation?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds a bit dry, but it's actually quite important. I mean, India's share of the ICC, the International Cricket Council's central pot last year went up from about a quarter to nearly 39%. West Indies, who are the team I sort of focus on in this section of the notes, they get about 4.5%. And my argument is that, yes, India do generate, 80 to probably a bit more percent of the global pot, so you could argue the financial discrepancy, but I think the money could be charged more ultimately. They get about $230 million a year from that ICC revenue share. West Indies get about 27.5. I don't think India need that money, and I think it'd be better redistributed to ensure that Test cricket in particular is dropped up in less well-off areas of the Caribbean in particular.
While I'm still at the global games, there's debate also in Britain about whether the spirit of cricket has a place in modern cricket. Is that a concept that doesn't exist across the world?
I think it's hanging on by its fingertips. A couple of high-profile incidents last year, of course, Johnny Bairstow stopping in the Ashes Test and Lords, and then absolutely massive strike that timed down during the World Cup game in Delhi. And I think that the question is if people are sort of playing by the letter of the law rather than a spiritual conception of the game, what is the point of this preamble to the law? It's called the Spurs Cricket Preamble. Then I think the law essentially says that play treat each other with respect. And we asked various well-known figures throughout the game whether they thought that the idea of the spirit of cricket was redundant in the cutthroat modern game. We got a variety of answers. Heather Knight, the captain, suggested that the wording of the preamble was wishy-washy and we should do away with it altogether. Half of those they respected Indian commentators said it was fabulous. The laws are fine. Chris Townsend, just had a college who pushed for the preamble in 2000, said that look, it's more simple than that. Treat each other with respect, and it will take care of itself.
And that one, of course, must get a mention in there of what we're interested in years, both the men's and the women's teams using that attacking style of play.
Absolutely, yeah. It's the sort of phrase that everyone's lips have actually got into Collins' dictionary last year, and it's throughout the active section of our book. Mike really writes a fascinating piece where he assesses the captaincy of Ben Stokes, and he asks an interesting question, actually relevant given that he just got born in India where Babel didn't work so well. He wonders how he will take on the inevitable setback, and I think we'll find the answer to that this year and probably towards the end of next year.
Suspicious, I got a bit suspicious as well, and then he pretended to be asking for £0 change. As I was saying, excuse me, I don't have any change, and I was going to unlock the door. The second man approached, they grabbed me from front and very strong, I couldn't move even my hands. And the first person stabbed me in my leg, and they straight away they ran away. And suddenly I just noticed all my belongings are with me, including my mobile phones, my watch, my AirPods, my wallet with cash in it. So the moment I just saw everything is with me, I noticed this is regarding my job. Because it wasn't a robbery. And then the police arrived, the ambulance arrived, I lost blood, they took me to the hospital, and I was discharged after a couple of days, and yeah, that's what happened on Friday 29th.
So the man who you spoke to me before and asked me to
Yeah.
would you relate to describe the individuals to the police? I know the understanding is they've now left the country.
Yes, as the investigation is still ongoing with the counterterrorism unit, and especially within counterterrorism unit, SO15 are leading the investigation. As you know, they are dealing with hostile states activities in the UK. So that says it all. But as the investigation is still ongoing, I think this is the information I can share at this stage, and we need to wait for police's statements later on to come out about the progress of the case, and also, as they said in their last statement, they're working 24 hours round the clock with their international partners to bring these three suspects back, because when they ran away, a third man was waiting in a car, and then they just drove and left the car abandoned about 4 or 5 miles from my house, and then they left the country via Heathrow Airport.
The Iranian Chargé d'Affaires in the UK has denied any link between the Iranian regime and this attack. Where do you stand, Priya, on the IRGC? Do you think the UK should prescribe them as a terrorist organisation?
Yes. What I want to say right now is not related to what happened to me specifically a few weeks before. I want to borrow a sentence from the Israeli Prime Minister when I had an exclusive interview with him last year. I asked him whether UK and European Union should proscribe IRGC as a terrorist organization, and he said they are self-designated. So the fact is, what happened to me is not the first incident we are seeing on British soil and on European soil, and apart from that, their activities in the last 45 years in the region trying to destabilize the peace and prosperity of the Middle East, and also specifically for Iranian people. What they did during the uprising in 2022, all the protests since 45 years ago, the beginning of the Islamic Republic, and until today. So if this is not terrorism, what is it then? Killing people outside Iran, taking US citizens, British citizens, European citizens as hostage to take ransom money, and all the other activities they have, it shows that they can be considered as a terrorist organization. But the fact that the UK and European Union haven't decided yet, I think it's totally politically motivated.
Thank you very much.
Still 14 minutes to go.
There has been an urban revolution in France. A new study has confirmed that Parisians now make more journeys by bike than by car. What can we learn? Before we discuss that, our Paris correspondent Andrew Harding has been out on his bike.
Okay, here we go. I am cycling onto the cobbles of the Champs-Élysées, much like the Tour de France. Bradley Wiggins and co. Mark Cavendish. I'm in my own special cycle lane, concrete divider separating us from the cars and the other traffic. In the last couple of years, these cycle lanes have sprouted all over the city, and it makes cycling a much safer and much more relaxing process than trying to compete with the cars. I've just been past the Grand Palais there, where the fencing is going to take place during the Olympics in a few months. Coming up to the Place de la Concorde. So since really COVID, and since the mayor Anne Hidalgo started trying to transform Paris into a much more of a cycling and pedestrian city, it's changed dramatically. For the first time, the evidence from research shows that bicycle journeys now far outweigh, eclipse car journeys by 11% to 4%. I always take somebody eating an ice cream on his bicycle, still on the cobbles. But how about this for a view? We are cycling along the side of the gardens near the Louvre, and there are 4 traffic lanes. 3 of them are for bicycles only. The cars, the buses, are all squeezed onto one little lane on the far side. And that, for me, really sums up the shift here. The priorities, the power, in attitudes. Bonjour, excusez-moi, what's your name? John, what do you think of cycling in Paris?
Yeah, the last couple of years, I've been going quite hard to get.
Feel safer? Yeah? Where are you from?
Australia.
Australia, okay.
20 years.
Off you go. Try not to crash into you. Excusez-moi, parlez anglais? Oh, hi. What's your name?
French.
You're French?
Yes.
How do you like cycling in Paris?
I love it.
I see you've got room for a small child or baby on the back.
Yes, I have.
So you take your children to school?
Yes, I have. School, to the park, everywhere.
And how have things changed in the last few years for cyclists?
There are much more cyclists in Paris due to the new organization thanks to Anne Hidalgo.
She's the mayor and yes. What in particular has changed?
But these, what do you say?
The cycle routes, yeah.
Cycle routes.
And the fact that you can see here there's a big concrete block just dividing us from the cars.
Yeah, exactly. It's much more safer. There are much more cyclists in Paris. I don't like that, actually.
Really? Too many bicycles?
Too many bicycles.
So Marie makes an interesting point there about maybe having too many cyclists. And one of the reasons that cycling is so easy in Paris, of course, is that it's a very flat city and it's a very small city. Here's the statistic we haven't mentioned is also very important, and that is the fact that 53% of journeys in Paris, so more than half of all journeys every day in Paris, are made on foot.
Andrew Harding, our correspondent in Paris, and with us here in the studio is Chris Boardman, Olympic cycling gold medalist and also National Active Travel Commissioner for England. You did a similar role in Greater Manchester before that. Welcome, Chris. You were listening to that. What do you think you can learn?
Well, I actually went over and just had a COP26 in Glasgow and learned to go and look at Glasgow, and I wanted them to see what they were doing, how they've done, how fast they were doing it, and what the Glasgow species really critically will stick to it. The interpreting from the start is they make the same space to exercise and everything.
Would you penalise the use of the car or excluded cars?
Well, when you've got space, you have to make a choice. How I think what kind of for Paris is how it should be. Wider. Yeah, very much started by essentially what I wanted to go to Paris to see so when you change the use of space and that's what I really
that's clearly the rankings of Avenue and Method more so than the Dutch one, which is like the space is there,
so Paris basically has kept the same laws by and large, so what it did make the same space segregate from the separate, and that's the approach that we're taking. The Dutch probably years ago now said that when it comes to where we use our streets and we're going to legislate accordingly, so they have presumed liability, so anybody on accident is responsible automatically for themselves, which is I think
I cycle in London. I find e-bikes quite unnerving because they can be very fast. How do you
Well, the little ones are, I mean, that are probably a regulation of e-bikes, so e-bikes can have 50 miles an hour, and so it's pretty much the same as everybody else, and then they cut out, but when they're chipped, when they're actually modified, they're the ones that cause the problem, so it's a regulation as well.
So that's something that should be cracked down on?
I think it's definitely one of the things probably on the list that absolutely scale a very safe way to get around. And I think the size of the prize is absolutely enormous. Building out the streets, how to save the other better than the prize is like that. And it's just like how easy for every day.
Thanks so much.
If you were expecting the woman in friendship was to left side of the Lexus to say sorry, what? This trust has it. You walk out 10 years to see the West and then look it up. Here's a big thing that you've done. This is the electric music. That girl, she's extended. She's her and she's her. So what was your best thing? Break them off. And she's done what she's done. All the time she's done great in her of the song and the with the preaching of the Lord. And yeah, that is slightly withering critique you made in the Times. You said even a baboon would muster up more self-awareness.
I actually almost thought that we did the scientific research on animal self-awareness than I did finding this toad device because it's very interesting. Yeah, they do a test and they show a mirror to animals to see if they are self-aware. And it turns out that baboons are quite good at it. They're certainly much better than Liz Truss, who still, even now, insists that everyone went wrong, is everyone else is right. What happened to her was not humiliating. The people who compared her to the narcissist you've just done is pathetic, out of touch, lefty establishment nonsense. Whether or not this finds a huge audience for book sales, I think remains to be seen. But given the paltry £1,500 advance she got for it, I think even her publishers are not expecting to sell very many copies.
Harry, you have to read this seriously. You've got to write about it. Interview the woman, of course. To be serious for a day, you care because you haven't written a book about apprenticeship. You know anything.
Yes, but I mean, it's almost frustrating by a subscription which was, we concluded the book that she had a high level of husband was almost unable to be a man, impossible to exist, or impossible to birth. And this kind of proves our thesis. Claims that says it's extraordinary and has moved into, well, frankly, abolished everything in the last 24 hours of prosperity. She's called for the Atlas for Special Species Teachers, UN to be disbanded, the OBR to be cancelled, National England got a chewing as well for some reason. I mean, there's not a single acronym that she hasn't declared war on. And of course, the Tory party for not really getting it.
It'd be a mistake that, wouldn't it, to ignore this, because there's a new populist theme developing just now, which is when we say take back control, there's a whole load of organisations, national and international, that we Brexiteers, as she would call them, now need to take back control from.
I think it would be a mistake to take this remotely seriously otherwise.
I was trying about that.
Actually, there are people in the Conservative Party who may well be in leadership positions if they lose the election, who do agree with her on some of these things. They just would really like her to stop talking about it because it's not helping their cause. So on individual issues, there is some agreement. I think that as a messenger, if you look at the polling, 10% of people currently have a favourable view of Liz Truss. That's the same number of people have a favourable view of North Korea. The idea that you've got a message you want to sell, you want to leave ECHL, which some people do. You think the OBR is too powerful. You think that, the Treasury's a break on growth. But we've got lots of people inside and outside of the Conservative Party who might agree with that. The idea you want Liz Truss as your spokesperson for that is absolutely absurd.
I guess Harry, she would be unapologetic. She could use her position, her former title, that brings her studies, former Prime Minister, to try and create a path to a different Conservative.
Yeah, I mean, she's certainly got unfinished business. Whether that is ever a frontline role, I think, I sees as probably unlikely, but she certainly wants some sort of backroom, sort of figurehead role, sort of Keith Joseph for the next Thatcher, sort of thing. And what she really wants to do is actually strangle control from TCHQ, the Tory HQ, to get control of candidates. I think that's where I think she thinks that the wrong type of Tory MPs have been picked over the last 20 years. She wants some solid right-winger, ideological, pure type to rebuild. But the problem is, the Tories had 14 years to do all this stuff. They're staring down the barrel of 10 years, possibly, of a Labour government. It's all a conversation right now, rather than 10 years to save the West. I'm not entirely sure what the plan is.
Final word to you, Matt. Did that last suggest a certain scepticism of the idea that she's the intellectual giant who will remake conservatism?
I don't know about Keith Jervis to Margaret Thatcher. She's barely Keith Allen to Orville. The idea that anyone seriously trying to reshape the future of the Conservative Party is going to use Liz Truss as an outrider, as a spokesperson, as a cheerleader to reach the country that, is as Orville himself was, for the birds.
You got there. I thought you might not end that metaphor in time for us to go to the end of the program, but you got there. That's all the time. Harry Cole, thank you very much. The book, 10 Years to Save the West, Chris, mate.
from us, our editors were Jacob Gardner and Scott Adams. The studio director was Lee Wilson. After the news, Jim Alfalini takes over. Good morning. BBC News at 9 o'clock. A number of Conservative MPs are expected to vote against legislation today which would give the UK some of the strictest anti-tobacco laws in the world. The bill would mean anyone turning 15 this year and younger would never be able to legally buy cigarettes. The former Cabinet Minister Simon Clark warned the plan risks creating a black market. Labour is backing the proposal, which means it's almost certain to become law. Chief Medical Officer for England, Professor Chris Whitty, told Today phasing out smoking would be a public health achievement.
The great majority are smokers wish they never started, but they become addicted at an early age, and then they're trapped, and their choice is being taken away by that addiction. This is one of the reasons why the arguments that if you're pro-choice, you're in favour of cigarettes is so surprising, because this is a product that's designed to take your choice away.
New figures show the number of people out of work in the UK has risen. The unemployment rate increased to 4.2% between December and February, up from 3.9% in the 3 months to January. The Prime Minister is expected to speak to his Israeli counterpart Benjamin Netanyahu. It's understood Rishi Sunak will urge restraint after Iran's unprecedented attack on Israel on Saturday night. Creating a fake sexually explicit image of someone without their consent, known as a deepfake, is to become a criminal offence in England and Wales. Legal experts have warned the threshold for prosecutions to succeed may be too high, because it will need to be proved that the image was created to cause distress. The Culture Secretary, Lucy Fraser, has urged sports governing bodies to ban transgender athletes from elite women's events. Writing in the Daily Mail, she said that in competitive sport, biology mattered, and male strength gave athletes an edge. Campaigners want a new tax on tickets for stadium and arena shows to help smaller music venues. Charity Music Venue Trust is proposing the so-called Taylor Swift tax, which would mean £1 from every ticket sold at a big venue would go to the grassroots. BBC News.
The Hollywood blockbuster movie producer Deborah Snyder is having visited Woman's Hour after a US project minutes at 10 o'clock. And before that, at 12:30, we go looking for ticks and ask how worried should we be about them. That's in today's Inside Health. But now here with Radio 4, Professor Jim Alcalini explores the extraordinary web of connections which creates thoughts and memories in non-scientific.
Hello. Imagine if you can a machine made up of 86 billion components, joined together in a network of 100 trillion connections. In computing terms, such a machine could perform the equivalent of 1,000,000 trillion mathematical operations per second. And yet, this network of connections is flexible enough for them to break, regenerate, and renew. Such a device, if it existed, would be the most complex system in the known universe. Well, such machines do exist. In fact, there are over 8 billion of them on our planet right now. Don't mind if this is making the brain turn somersaults, because, yes, the machine I'm talking about is the human brain. Today's guest from the Life Scientific has spent her career demystifying and explaining the brain to audiences around the world. Dr. Hannah Critchlow is an internationally acclaimed neuroscientist, and through her writing, broadcasting, and lectures to audiences, whether in schools, festivals, or online, she's become one of the public faces of neuroscience. Through her research and writing, she's explored the idea that much of our character, our behaviour, our beliefs are hardwired into us before we were even born. And most recently, she's considered collective intelligence, asking how we can bring all our individual brains together and harness their power in one system.
Hello, Jim.
Now, Hannah, I can start by saying that when you came into the studio today, you attached a set of electrodes to my head. I'm not sure if that's the usual way a neuroscientist says hello, but here we are. Do you want to explain what's happening?
Yeah, so I put you up to an EEG machine and we're analysing the electrical activity that's going on within your brain. So you talk about these 86 billion units within the brain, these nerve cells, and they actually produce electrical current, if you like, because they pump sodium and potassium ions in and out of the cell membrane, and that pumping of charged ion basically creates an electrical current which zips across from one nerve cell to the next nerve cell in the circuit. And that movement of electrical current basically creates a
thoughts, our ideas, our emotions, and our behaviour instructs us how to interact with the world and its people. And what I'm doing right now is measuring your electrical activity in your brain as you're thinking in real time.
So the sounds we're listening to now are the sounds of my thoughts.
They are. So I've transduced the potential difference in millivolts of your brain into hertz that are audible to the listener's ear, so that you can listen to that wonderful, jubilant kind of praise dance that's going on in your brain. And it's dancing all over the place, isn't it?
And I gather you did a similar experiment with Rowan Williams, the former Archbishop of Canterbury. And what did you discover about what was going on in his brain as he meditated?
So this was an incredible experience. I was invited to the Hay Literary Festival in Wales, and Rowan Williams, the former Archbishop of Canterbury, was at the time, he was Master of Magdalen College, where I'm affiliated at the University of Cambridge. And very kindly he let me kind of read his brainwaves live on stage in front of 1,800 people in the audience. And he meditated on stage in front of all of these people, and we could see this incredible burst of gamma wave activity. So that's the fastest frequency of electrical stimulation in the brain. As he was meditating, there was an incredible burst of gamma wave activity, which is what you would expect to see when somebody is very practiced and well rehearsed with meditation.
Because you tried to listen to my gamma wave to see if I could find meditation. No.
That was a bit of a flat line, wasn't it?
But this sort of demonstration really is at the heart of what you try to do, to convey neuroscience to people in a fun, interactive way.
Yeah, and I think, the little kind of live experiments really help with that, because they bring the scientific findings, which is just, I just find, as you're finding more about the brain, we have all these new technologies that are allowing us to experience the brain as never before and start to understand how our behaviour, how our consciousness is magicked up. These demonstrations, these live experiments really help audiences to become interested in these topics and to gain some kind of... I'm from Japan, Indonesia. It's 5 p.m. And here I am.
Tell me about the area you're in now.
It's called Makanda,
South Africa.
rural town, formerly known as Grahamstown.
Formerly known as Grahamstown. When was the name changed and why?
The name was changed in 2019. The reason for that is, of course, there's a lot of political and historical background around it. So colonialism, the name Grahamstown, and that is the indigenous people of this land, and of course, one of the things that the Grey and the Colonel Grey say when they arrived there was that shows the amount of the degree of terror to the indigenous people of the land. So that kind of narrative is very here. And of course, whenever they come around, regarding what we about our city, what we about ourselves, people, and whether it's appropriate to build in this kind of skin. So those are the conversations that were happening around there. And then one of my Minister of
culture and heritage, then said after consultation within the community that the name would be changed from Grahamstown to Makanda. Now, interestingly, Makanda Kangwele was a prophet here during the time when Colonel Graham was here, and he was captured as a political prisoner and taken to Robben Island, and he's always said that I want to go back home. So he escaped Robben Island, but unfortunately drowned in the ocean. So that's the whole background behind it.
Cesar, can you explain what it's like for you continually having to go back to sea, having to depart again and again from your life at home?
It used to be much easier. But when I started that this job, I told you it was, I was much younger, I was disabled, I didn't have any responsibilities at home, and still there was this longing for my home, for my family, for my friends, whenever I was gone. Somehow got harder and harder because I had this wonderful woman in my life. And every time I leave for me, it's like I really want to something. It's like a rip missing my soul, and I really there. It doesn't get easier. It never gets easier. It's getting harder and harder and harder. But there is a tendency among the seafarers, that when they start this job, they say the same thing. It's just for 5 or 10 years and then I will pass. And it's always, 5 more years, 5 more months, 5 more voyages. One seems to be able to break free from this relationship, because it is a relationship that we have with the sea. They say that once you've tasted salt water, then you are forever bound to the sea.
In the canvas, I have it's like a guilty life, it's bound up, it's the process. It's incredibly productive every day, and we also want to be in this quiet, place. And the members of the choir, what sort of background do they from?
Most of them are from the location in Makanda. Most of them don't have any formal musical training, but most of them used to be so intelligent. And that's what I look for when I was. I don't look at it typically when you do music. I'm looking for just to play a bit, and I'll say, do it harmonize, make it harmonize. And most of them can. Can you put out so most of them can. So most of the people come to the concert, they are ready. 16 and 28, we just come together and get 2 hours of driving in the morning and 3 hours on a Saturday afternoon, and just go through the end of the world.
So how did that come about? How did you get involved in something like the choir? How did that become a key for the choir? What was it all about?
We were required to be a large work for the next aspect. And I got an emphasis as well that I was doing and then that went really well. Then found out I was not required for this year. This was not good. Gave me thumbs up. Everybody gave thumbs up. And that's how good this was. So I went to the designer and said to her, look, this is going to be one of the most prolific choirs in Makanda. We need to look at wide range of repertoire, but it's going to be focused
very good.
And what about your father?
So good. We are living in under the same roof. My mom is praying 5 times a day, and my dad is burning incense sticks.
Two faiths, two people had very strong convictions. What impact do you think that has had on your life?
Well, that's also an inner work for me because there were not many children back then in my school that had families from different backgrounds, so I was always shy about my family. One is Hindu, other is Islam.
I wonder, what are the things that you feel that it's given you something valuable as well?
Yeah, because then I questioned God, I questioned what religion. I remember that I was really close for 4 days, maybe 4 weeks, thinking about my dad will go to hell because he's not doing Israel ritual again anymore. It hurt a lot. I was a teenager when I realized that, well, it doesn't matter whatever belief. It's between the person and God.
Cesar, please can you describe what it's like on board right now? Get close to the next destination. How do you feel what you hear?
We are now so we are getting close to shore. I don't know if you can hear in the background. You can hear all kinds of noises here. I mean, the ship is always alive. But when we get close to shore, you can actually feel her, coming alive. Different than the noise that we are used to when we are at sea, because when we are at sea, there is continuous sound. It's kind of like a song that's playing over and over and over again.
What would you like to see the best? I wonder, what would you like to see the best happen?
That's a hard one. Church music I do enjoy. I go to Korean songs a lot. I love singing Korean songs. But I also really enjoy our traditional music in South Africa. The lyrics, the music that we sing, and the rhyme, the people is so impactful, and you can't imitate that experience in any other genre. So that is probably also one of my favorites.
If I don't want to put you on the spot, and I'd love to, but as I was I just so nice to be able to hear you. Could you sing a few lines? Perhaps.
Yeah, a song that Spotify fits really into the thing. Which is a song about like Inga, and it goes like this.
And you can find many more traditions of Hong Kong sounds. Beyond this element shortly, but first, let's have our courses next Monday, where we take a closer look at the history of China.
Music Learning explores the invention of China.
If I were to describe the history of China in 4 words, they would be epic, glorious, tragic, mysterious.
China is essentially an old empire redefined as a national state.
It has an immensely rich and deep history, and history is critical in order to grasp why China is the coming power in this world. The Invention of China begins next Monday morning at 11 on Radio 4 and BBC Sounds.
Singer-songwriter Kitty Canyon analyzes the career of the band Dr. Phillips, where music professionals show some bands split while others are 1984 had a discussion about faith and feet.
I'm Giles Fraser, and this is Beyond Belief.
Our fireworks are around 1200 degrees now, so that's enough to melt out. They are genuinely hot, and we run fireworks anywhere between 2 meters, which is like 8 steps to go straight length, right up to 30 meters.
That was Clive Richards, stepping onto burning coals with naked feet. Sounds terrifying. Yep, I can see how it can be important to face your fears. But how is this also a spiritual practice?
Once you take them out first step, you realise that you're in the moment. There is this realisation that yes, it's absolutely not. Things are not burning, nothing's done. And there's this moment of release, and you just keep walking, and every step just becomes more connected. It's just about being calm and doing something you've never done before. It's something that thought maybe impossible. But it's about releasing what no longer serves you. That is what is holding you back. And in the process of letting that go in that first step, it allows you to be in a place where you can go out and serve more people and create that ripple effect in the world.
Can you remember the first time you did it?
My experience was initially shock, certainly a bit of discomfort, but when that first step happened, and I realised I was doing it, I couldn't to this day tell you what changed, but I can say when I stepped off I was in tears, not pain, or joy or transformation, and it was like I just met something go and was incredibly heavy and I was moving away. Take the steps on it. There is that insatiable connection and reconnection with the element of fire as a physical entity, as well as that sort of blending those two experiences together.
That was Clive, a shamanistic practitioner talking about the evolution of practice of fire. All this got us thinking about something that might sound slightly strange at first. Bear with us, because I hope to persuade you that there is something genuinely fascinating about the way in which feet hold the complex and powerful symbol in so many of the world's religions. This is Beyond Belief, where each week we take one person's journey and explore what it tells us about the role that faith plays in the world today. I'm joined by a panel who are going to help me unpack the strange and the true mentalistic practices relating to meeting across a range of religious traditions. Shukr Ahmed is former chair of the Islamic Society of Britain and former associate dean of religious life at Stanford University of California. Welcome to you.
Hello, David.
Hi, so have you got your shoes on?
Of course you don't.
Priya's intelligent PhD student specialising in community in the UK. I'm Chris, and you are suitably shoeless as well. Brilliant. And the Reverend Lucy Whitfield, who is the rector of St James's Academy in London and the author of Reading the Bible. I've got no shoes on either, so thank you.
I've got no shoes on at all, David.
I am your very good fellow.
So that idea comes from a liberation theologian from the 1970s in America, Congressman Carlos Estes, who ran the General Thoughts Project. And he really wanted to help those of us who used to read the Bible, not just read it as a story from their own far away, but to sort of look through it, but it is the story. So you make your way through the world and sort of that's how you do it. That's really the as well as visiting stories.
Shukr, tell me about how your feet play a role from the Muslim tradition.
So there's a cultural and ethnological element that history brings together in all of the Muslim culture. So all it's
So taking your shoes off is a sort of demarcation of sacred space, taking your shoes off and the mosque, for instance.
And now I'm in the outside world, on the outside, and I'm entering this space and stepping forward in a way that I wouldn't to people comfortable, right? So they're fitted in the spot, and then for a lot of people, they would have performed their wudu or their ablutions at home, but they would go to perform those in the masjid, they would go to the washing also. So there's a very clear demarcation between those few minutes or the day that you've had thus far, and then entering into this place of worship, the masjid, where it's now between you and your creator, you and your Lord.
Priyesh, do people function in a similar way in Hindu culture?
Yes, so I would say in the case of the temple, the mandir, there's a practice in terms of firstly you need to take your shoes off, and of course similar action for hygiene reasons. One might do this in the temple and in the home, but it really represents that crossover from the outside world to a place of heightened sanctity. The literal marble of the stone from which the mandir is made, and then that material, quite literally, when one takes one's shoes off. And in many stories and many traditions within India, the king, the ordinary person, the poor person, all of them approach the deity in the mandir with their shoes off. Everyone removes their social status in order to approach the divine.
Look, I have to say, I'm slightly ashamed of my feet. I think my feet are ugly and smelly and pretty gross. And yet the idea that something like that, and a number of people who think about their feet like that, would actually have such an interesting role in religious traditions. Subra, do you find that contrast between feet being sort of smelly and something that we also wash them and value them and
喺度睇住細 B B， 一係我哋一齊去入去。要唔要一齊入去？婆婆要用個電話喎。你喺度啊？ Sure。
Definitely, and I mean there's a whole movement now in contemporary Christianity from Forest Church and many other eco-contemplative ways of praying outside. Quite often that will involve, exactly as you say, taking your shoes off and feeling the earth beneath your feet or the grass. And I think that does have a very profound effect, as Kai was saying, on your concept of time.
Yeah, and noticing stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you're absolutely where you are, you're who you are, and all you have is now. So it's the sacrament of the present moment.
Subra, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about pedicures. I've never had a pedicure.
And I will confess to having perhaps one in my house.
Okay, that's not overindulgent. But there is a sort of beautifying the Indians have continents anyway, henna and care for the feet and all of that. That's a rather lovely, rather beautiful thing, isn't it?
It really is, and I hear, a lot of these things, actually, what I really, really enjoy about them is the fact that they don't just belong to one particular faith or cultural community, whether you are Hindu, Muslim, Jain, Buddhist, Sikh, Christian in those countries, you will know the tradition of mehndi or henna, as we call it here. I feel like well, being spread, being shared, and we have things called things like heritages, which is language that is not subconscious to begin with, but mainly the art of applying the tradition of applying is something that is considered special. It used to be considered feminine, actually. Today it's considered a bit more gender neutral, men also apply but it's a tradition that is especially valued and marked when somebody gets married.
So that I that's a secret, but I put my feet into a bowl of water with lots of fish there to sort of nibble away. I think we spend a ridiculous amount of money on this sort of stuff. The idea that there's a sort of secular industry about caring for people, but there's a different way in which religious traditions think about food from this sort of like very expensive way to do it.
So I didn't even think that happens here, Dal, because that's the kind of skill I had probably about 15, 20 years ago. And I didn't think that we still have those fish tanks. So you have to give me, a recommendation there.
From Priya, have you ever had that done?
I've not seen it, but I've never had it done myself.
No, but you must have had a pedicure.
No, I haven't.
No, oh, good for you. I just somehow think that there is a particular way in which religious traditions think about and there's a sort of secularized version of it which missed something of the spiritual tenderness of the way in which religious traditions think about it.
You know, I feel like that's really fascinating because my take on that, or my understanding is that when it comes to sort of whatever, and I'm doing air quotes right now, getting ready for summer means, part of that is getting your feet ready for the summer. And I really can't buy into this because it's hard work, quite frankly, and destructive, some other things in my life. But a lot of people are capable of having all of those mechanics and hard things, all of that removed. But also, getting their feet off, their nails off, having their nails painted, which is actually quite an investment, time-wise, financially. Being able to put your feet on the show for a lot of people in this part of the world requires that kind of investment because you don't feel trained, but you feel proud of trained on.
From the administration of the United States, but also from the international community, that has decided to a certain degree, and the focus is on Iran and what they did. And I think it makes sense not to reattack now, but to wait and let the international community pursue diplomatic initiatives